worst time of my life by far, I think people are going to realize, like, why wasn't this done sooner? If you've had a rough year, me too. But this is how I plan on making 2025 the best year yet, and I hope it helps you do the same. So first of all, why was 2024 challenging? 2024 was challenging primarily due to health reasons, a lot of health issues. So I had 5 separate infectious illnesses, which really sucked because the severity, the magnitude was a lot worse than what I've experienced in the past. I think some of them were flus, none of them were COVID. One of them was food poisoning. So it was 4 URIs, upper respiratory infections, and 1 food poisoning. I had to actually go to the ED back in early August for Campylobacter, and I needed to get on antibiotics and IV hydration. Normally, people can handle it without antibiotics. They get fine in a couple days. But after like day 3, I was getting worse and worse. I had to go to the ED. And because of my gut condition, Crohn's colitis, as well as the immunosuppressive agent I'm on, I just did not have a good time. And with my travel, I got a lot of these URIs too, which put me out of commission more so than they have at any time in the past. That was the big reason I got frustrated a lot this year. Got down, got frustrated, but then I reminded myself that the story you tell yourself is way, way more important than the factual things that actually happen to you. I was reminded multiple times, each time I got this illness and I kind of went through these ups and downs where I would get really frustrated and irritated and annoyed, and then remind myself this story. Remind myself that, hey, I've gone through way worse when I was 18 years old. And if I did that back then and I handled it in a much better way, then why can't I handle this easier time that I'm older and more mature now? So the reasoning there is, if the circumstances have changed, if the event is here, the event that you don't like, the experience is not fun, then the only thing you really have control of is your self-talk and your framing. So being angry and being frustrated doesn't help. In fact, it actually makes your experience even worse than it already is. So I had to remind myself, relearn this. And again, when I was 18, I think I was quite adept at it. And it's almost paradoxically easier to do when things are worse. So obviously at 18, family implosion, financial implosion, moving to a small place with this newly diagnosed illness where I had to use the bathroom a lot, can't eat anything, using the bathroom with not only high urgency and frequency, but a lot of pain, just the worst time of my life by far. And yet I was able to craft a story, craft a narrative. Because things are so bad, you only have one option. It's either sink or swim. So you have to do that. But here, when things aren't nearly as bad, it's paradoxically harder to have as good of a mindset, which I find very interesting. With that reframing, I realized that, you know what, 2024 actually isn't all that bad. I have a ton to be grateful for. First of all, I'm born in the US and I was raised in a safe neighborhood. I went to good public schools, and I choose to interpret a lot of the issues and struggles that I faced as a child, which I would not want for my own children by any means, but I choose to view them through an empowering lens by saying that the issues from my childhood have given me the fire to work harder. So again, it's about how you frame things. That doesn't change what happened in the past, but it changes the current and future trajectory to add value to those stories rather than letting those stories pull me down. Truth is somewhere here. It's not out here and it's not out here, but it's somewhere in this range, and you can choose to tell yourself the correct story. I'm not going to say I had the best ever childhood. I'm not going to say I had the worst ever childhood. My childhood was somewhere here, but I can choose to perceive where in this range it is based on the story I tell myself. And I want to choose the story that serves me. And one of my favorite podcasters, Chris Williamson from the Modern Wisdom podcast, he talks about this as things being either figuratively true or literally true, which is essentially the same. He's a lot better at memeing these ideas than I am. So what I have said in the past is something that choose the truth that serves you. And that truth is shades of gray. It's on a spectrum. There's a range of truth, but I like his better framing of figuratively and literally true. A really good example is you have a gun. You always treat the gun as if it's loaded, even when it's not, for safety reasons, so that it is figuratively true that the gun is loaded, but it is literally false if it's actually not. Figuratively, you treat it as if it's always loaded. You never point at anything you don't want to destroy. And I do think that, especially for younger people, it is more and more difficult to take that lens and to not get frustrated with how unfair life is. I think it was actually at med school graduation that I realized the level of privilege and Richie Rich versus the common folk is, first of all, far more common, and also there's a huge spectrum here. 30% of my graduating med school class had no loans at all, and that primarily almost exclusively came from familial contributions to those students, which is not right or wrong. It is what it is, and there's a very large subset of people that have that privilege, which is awesome. I want to provide my future children that privilege if I'm able to. And then as you get older and your friends start buying houses and you talk with them, you realize that at least the friends that I have in California, almost all of them bought their homes due to family contributions, down payments, paying off the student loans, things like that. So don't fall into that trap of comparing yourself. It's good to compare yourself, to push yourself to be better and say, hey, I want to achieve certain things. Or when I'm doing my sim racing, I want to go faster and faster to try to be towards the top, which I'm very far from being towards the top, by the way. I'm closer to the bottom than I am to the top, in fact. But when you have that understanding, it's a lot easier to not get frustrated, to say, hey, these are the cards that I'm dealt and I'm going to make the best out of this hand. And in fact, I'm going to find value in this hand that other people looking at this hand would not see that value. I'm going to find value in the struggles and the challenges. And for me, it's in a very tough childhood and a very tough year at 18 years old, and even the few years after that. Very challenging, but I'm going to find the fuel. I'm going to find the sublimation, taking that negativity. I change it into positive stuff, and I've, skyrocketed my grades, my work ethic, all those things. So there's always a way to change the story so that it serves you. And I know it's easier said than done. One thing that I have struggled with is fitness, really. I tried just about everything. I read a ton of books, tracked my macros, overdid the protein, underdid the protein, got the protein just right, tried various routines and all that stuff. In 2020, I've been working with a professional coach ever since. And I worked with some coaches for 2.5 years, some for less. Most of them have said that, yeah, Kevin, unfortunately, there's a bell curve when it comes to fitness stuff, and you're just at closer to one end of the bell curve than the other. So that's why it's harder for you to gain muscle. It's harder for you to do X, Y, and Z. And, we're tracking all these things, all the variables, your stress, your sleep, your nutrition, your fitness, or not your fitness, your fitness routine. And, you're just we're just built differently. And I can be frustrated about it, or I can accept it and say, hey, even though I'm probably never going to get the physique I want or hit certain fitness goals that I would have loved at 25, I'm still going to work hard, because it's still better for me to work hard and improve those things versus saying,
I can't reach those goals I wanted, therefore let me just get worse.
So I will still work hard, but now my goals they're not up here, now they're down here. They're a little bit more realistic based on my body and my genetics. Now that's a key part of the video, which is that I thought 2024 was rough. But after I did some reflection, I realized that it was actually kind of great. By practicing this gratitude, which is such an important thing, because it's so easy to focus on the negativity, especially with the negativity bias that humans have. You then realize 2024 was a better year than I thought. And I began celebrating these wins. So let's go through personal, professional. Personal. Ever since end of 2022, I put a lot of time into health and fitness, much more than I did before. Previously, I spent 5 to 6 hours a week on strength training and maybe 1 to 2 hours a week average on cardio. And since December 2022, I've been doing 4 to 8 hours per week on cardio and about 6 hours per week on strength training. And sometimes I add a little bit more here or there for stretches and rehab stuff. And I continue that this year as well. And I'm changing my system and working on being more efficient with my time and figuring out my routine so that it's sustainable. So I will do a ton of Zone 2 bike riding Monday through Friday, usually 5 days a week around 10, 11 a.m. between breakfast and lunch while doing meetings with my team. Way more time efficient that way. Because when I'm on the computer, I can't really do computer work, and doing meetings, you're just chatting. So that's been a huge way to kill 2 birds with 1 stone. And then I was experimenting with strength training early, late, and now I've settled on just doing it around 5 p.m. because I want to focus on work when I'm sharp. And then at the end of the day, when I'm starting to notice my productivity with work decline, I can hit the gym. And even though my productivity is declining, my energy and my ability to push myself at the gym is not compromised in the same way. So VO2 max testing actually went down this year compared to last year, but last year I did it on a treadmill and this year I did it on a bike. On a bike, you generally have a slightly lower VO2 max because you're using your lower body muscles, whereas when you're running, it's a little bit more of a full body thing. So it's natural for it to go down a little bit, but I also gained a lot of weight, a lot of that not good weight because coach at the time was telling me, yo, dude, just do a dirty bulk. That's the issue. You're not gaining muscle. So again, I've tried a lot of different strategies with the whole muscle building thing. And so despite that, my VO2 max went down slightly, but ultimately I'm celebrating it as a win because my cycling fitness has certainly improved. And when you account for the weight change, remember VO2 max is milliliters of oxygen per kilogram of body weight per minute. So when you account for the weight change and such, is actually my cardiovascular system has gotten better. I've now cycled a little over 3,100 miles. I think by the end of the year, I can hit 3,500 miles. My goal was 5K, but hitting 5,000 miles was not feasible, especially given those illnesses, because that would knock me out for at least a week, sometimes more than a week. And then even when you get back on the bike, you can't just go straight to the same 7 hours, 8 hours per week. You have to slowly ramp it up. So I traveled to India, just me and my mom this time. We went for 2 weeks back in January and made a video about the experience up here. I flew both her and myself in business class for the first time internationally, and it was very special. We did the Q Suites, and if you're into the award travel and credit card churning, then you know Q Suites is a special experience. So it was awesome, especially to be able to provide that for my mom. And now in that phase in life, maybe like the last couple of years, where giving back, it feels good. It makes me feel like the hard work is paying off. Soon after that, I went to Japan and Hawaii with my girlfriend for 2 weeks. Also saw the Japanese Grand Prix. Super cool. And that was my first time in Japan. Amazing experience, especially since I wanted to go ever since I was in middle school. Had a trip planned in January of 2020, but I decided to cancel it because of my immunosuppression. Even though lockdown wasn't here yet, COVID was raging in Asia. So it was good to finally go 4 years later. I like Japan so much, in fact, that I traveled back to Japan in the fall for my birthday a second time for 1 week. Also did a lot of domestic travel. So this year I've been traveling more than I ever have in my life, and it's been a lot of fun. Although getting sick more than I ever have in my life has not been so much fun. At least I was getting sick back when I arrived and not when I was actually out traveling. End of last year, I got this shoulder injury. So I've actually had this chronic rotator cuff injury since high school from dumbbell military press, and I managed it for several years. But it started getting aggravated to the point where end of last year, end of November, right around Thanksgiving of last year, I could no longer do upper body. I couldn't even do pull-ups, pull-downs, cable horizontal rows, things that I would normally be able to do. I couldn't do anymore. And I had this terrible pain. And I worked with PT, didn't make a lot of progress. But then I bought some coaching programs from Trevor Hash. And he's a fellow YouTuber. But I'm so grateful I met him because he combines different modalities. It's not just, hey, I'm a physical therapist and therefore we're going to do PT, which is generally how I've done this in the past when I worked on my SI joint injury or my rotator cuff injury. So what's really cool is that he integrates different philosophies, and it's been by far the most effective, rehab protocols, where I'm now less than a year later, I think ever since the summer actually, I've been able to do upper body strength training, which is huge. I'm still not 100% normal. This is a chronic injury I've had for like 16 years, but I'm able to do the things that I have not been able to do at all for the end of 2023 and the first half of 2024. So it took a lot of time and effort to really work through that. And things are heading in the right direction. So kudos to Trevor. And if you want to work with him yourself, I actually referred some friends to him because it's been such an amazing experience. Then use the link below. Earlier this year, I also learned that all of my immediate family members have either pre-diabetes or diabetes type 2. And it reminds me of a commenter in the past who said something similar. So they said, hey, all my family members have diabetes and therefore why should I even try? I'm doomed to get it myself. And I commented at the time something along the lines of, no, dude, you should be extra motivated, because if you invest in your health and you take this seriously, then you can be the one to not get it. You're not doomed to get it just because your family does. And that's the route that I'm taking now as well. So big thanks to Levels and their awesome product, their awesome app. I've been dialing this in more and more. They're actually sponsoring today's video, but I bought Levels with my own money back in 2019. I loved it so much, and they've improved it a lot since then, by the way. But even back then, it was so good, and it continues to be even better today, that I reached out to them and said, hey, I want to work with you guys. And I've been using Levels ever since. So now it's been over 4 years that I've been using Levels. And this year with Levels, I've improved my diet further. I've reduced carbs. I've added more protein, more fiber. And the cool thing is that Levels, it's a tight feedback loop. It helps you customize your diet based on your own physiology. What works, what doesn't work for you, not the general population's glycemic index. What about your personal index, right? So as a result, my body composition has improved. I've lost fat. I've gained muscle. Remember, I was a little bit too fluffy last year with the prior coach. Although recently, I will say that I got sick again, end of November, lost my appetite, lost like 6 pounds. And I'm sure a good amount of that was muscle, since my protein and total calorie intake was really low for like 10 days. Had some muscle atrophy, I'm sure. Levels has added new features that add additional value beyond just the CGM and the core functionality. If you get the Levels app membership, you get the full unrestricted access to the app and all of its features, including logging your macros, habit tracking, custom insights, and community glucose data. And that habit tracking, you get to choose which 3 habits you want to prioritize. So for me, that's going to be fiber, that's going to be the number of spikes per day, that's going to be exercise. But you can choose for yourself whatever habits and targets for those habits that you want to dial in. So you can always get the CGMs at any time, by the way. You can buy the annual subscription and then add a CGM every other month or later down the line if you do decide. It's still my favorite part of the Levels experience, the CGM. That's why I'm constantly wearing one. There's one under my shirt right here. And that's how they started. But there's so much more value if you're not as much of a blood glucose nerd like me. You're still going to find a lot of value. The key principle here is that you can't manage what you don't measure. And that's why Levels is so powerful. And they've integrated measuring a lot of different things, your blood sugar, these habits, and so on. So it's actually so good. I even got my mom on it, which you can see right here. Metabolic health is one of the 4 horsemen that Peter Attia talks about in Outlive, right? We talk about lifespan and health span. We want to live long, healthy lives where we're actually capable and active and not bedridden, right? So metabolic health, people think, oh, just diabetes, not a big deal. Just like take insulin or something. No. It's something that you want to avoid if you can. It's a lead domino that increases the risk of Alzheimer's and heart disease and vision issues and much, much more. So protein is something that I've kind of swung both ways. Like in college, I was having 220 grams of protein per day. That was way overkill. I've had times when I've had maybe 80 to 100 grams of protein. That's low for someone like me that is 175 pounds trying to gain muscle doing strength training. So with Levels, I'm able to prioritize my protein intake and actually track that. We know that as we age, we develop anabolic resistance. So it's harder to hold on to and gain muscle and build new muscle. So adding more protein helps. Levels has macro tracking now and this AI whereby you can take a photo of your food or you can describe it and it's going to figure out what that food is, the portions, estimate the total calories and macros plus fiber too. If you're a fan of Peter Attia, then you understand the importance of both protein and fiber intake. And by the way, for those who want a deep dive into his book Outlive in 1 hour, I have this super in-depth summary right up here. Went through everything you need to know, including all the action items from the book right up there. And it's also linked below as a blog post on my website if you prefer a written form where you can kind of skim through and find those action items and such. With these recent developments and additions, Levels is becoming even more comprehensive and you can even get these mobile lab draws with them. So a phlebotomist comes out to your house and they draw your blood and then you get the results synced seamlessly into your Levels app. You get important markers like cholesterol, hemoglobin A1C, and much more. Right now, Levels is offering my subscribers an additional 2 free months of the Levels annual membership when you use my link down below. And remember, it's a new year. This is the best time. You had that motivation. This is the best time to tackle these habits, put the systems in place because you're not going to be motivated in 1 month or 2 months. So now that you're motivated, take action now, get the app set up with the system so that it helps encourage the behaviors that you should be doing that are going to improve your metabolic health. So take advantage either for yourself or gift it to a loved one like I did with my mom to optimize your or their metabolic health. Now onto the professional side with Med School Insiders, some huge things that we were alluding to last year. We launched Inscribe. Inscribe is this comprehensive platform on the website that connects our insiders, which are our tutors and our advisors, to the clients. And it helps to streamline the process. You have video integration, you have uploading and exchanging files, you have tracking progress of various things. And it was a huge undertaking, but it's added this level of polish and improving the user experience for both our insiders and more importantly, our customers, of course. We also launched the full MCAT course with the 510 plus score guarantee. So we launched the initial MCAT course, which didn't have the multiple half-length and full-length practice exams. Now we have that launched earlier this year. It also comes with a 510 plus score guarantee. So we like to call it the first honest score guarantee in the industry. At these other companies, there are all these hoops you have to jump through. You got to attend every in-person lecture and do this and that. And it's near impossible to jump through these 10, 12, 13 criteria. And with our course, it's a lot simpler. You can read the conditions yourself on our website. But in summary, we want you to actually go through our entire course and go through the entire MEM system and use all the resources. And we're so confident because this has been so effective. Just to paint the picture, MEM users alone have scored a 513.4 on the MCAT, which is higher than the score of the average matriculant. The average matriculant has a 511.8. So this is like a 90th plus percentile score is the average for just MEM users. And we're still gathering data, but we'll then be able to tell you the average score for Med School Insider's MCAT course users because they get both the MCAT course plus MEM on certain tiers of the course. We also launched Casper AI and the AAMC Preview AI courses, which have been a huge success. Casper AI in particular has just blown up. We sold hundreds and hundreds of those. We're very proud of that product because we've leveraged really cutting edge technology for our AI offerings. These two guys, they became good friends, and we first started with Casper AI, but they've also started this entire company around it. More on that later, but I've invested and I advise for that company now. But it's cutting edge stuff. They're actually in Y Combinator, and like they're that good. You know, the most prestigious, most competitive accelerator in the world, and they got in, right? So Casper AI has this same cutting edge AI technology. It's not just a ChatGPT wrapper or whatever. It is far more advanced than that. So you can do practice Casper, unlimited scenarios, and really hone your skill set there of dealing with these ethical scenarios, these situational judgment tests, so that you can get that highest quartile. We also leverage the same technology on Preview. Preview is not as commonly used as Casper when it comes to med school applications, but it might gain popularity in future years, in future application cycles. And the most impressive one of the bunch is actually the interview AI course. So we have a medical school interview AI and a residency interview AI. Guys, you gotta try to believe it. It's wild. You can actually go to interview.medschoolinsiders.com. You can get a free mock interview. You don't even have to create an account. But if you do want like the personalized stuff, which is really mind-blowing, the AI will ask you questions from your application and follow-up questions. Hey, tell me about this research. Explain X, Y, and Z. Tell me about this experience. It's really wild stuff. Then you have to actually purchase the course and you upload your application, and the tool will actually read through your application, learn about you, and then ask you questions based on that. It's wild stuff, and it's the same technology that these guys have built in their time at Y Combinator, and really just cutting edge, top tier stuff that you're not going to find anywhere else. These are the guys that are pioneering this stuff. On the YouTube side of Med School Insiders, we improved the quality of our animation significantly. If you look at the videos over the last year versus just 2 years ago, 3 years ago, it is such a stark difference. We have these new workflows. We really invested a lot, expanding the team there, expanding the tools we're using. It's much more complicated now. And each video now takes several weeks longer than it did before, but we think it's worth the effort. It's a lot more creative, a lot more engaging, a lot more fun to watch and also to create. And it's cool because if you guys saw the last update video, you'll know that we hired a lot of people in 2023. We really expanded the team. And now we're starting to see the effects of that snowballing, right? Building these better systems, expanding our tools, actually not even just expanding our tools, but doubling down on improving the functionality and getting the most out of our current tools, but building the systems so that everyone on our team can succeed and excel. Between our 3 different brands of Med School Insiders, Kevin Jabal MD, and Jabal and Cars, I think we have like 15 plus animators and editors, so a lot more than we had before, and managing them and giving them all the tools and resources and helping them succeed has been great. And building the tools for them to succeed has been a process too. And we're improving our own skill set in entrepreneurship and systems design and management. And that's fun. Anytime you see improvement, whether you're getting gains in the gym or gains in your skill set in running a business, or even doing better on your exams in college, right? These are all things that are highly rewarding, is when you see progress from your efforts. Now onto the Kevin Jabal MD brand. We found a better cadence of videos. I think what we've really optimized for around this brand is just fun and enjoyment. That's how the channel started. This channel has the least defined niche. Med School Insiders has a very clearly defined niche. Jabal and Cars has a very clearly defined niche. Kevin Jabal MD is the most amorphous. And if you look at the first 10 videos to the middle 10 videos to the last 10 videos, all very different, which from a YouTube perspective is not optimal, because you want to narrow down on a niche, and that's how you grow a channel. But that isn't always how you optimize for your own happiness, right? And I want to optimize for fun and happiness, not just for me, but for everyone on the team. We focused on a lot more reaction videos, which I find to be a lot of fun. We do also occasionally do scripted or more thorough videos, things like product reviews. I did various smart ring reviews earlier this year, which have performed well and were fun. Same with the Whoop Apple Watch. So doing some of these health tech devices, I find enjoyable. We did 8 Sleep review recently, but it's less about trying to optimize the channel and grow the channel. And it's more about what is fun and how can we add value, start a great dialogue, and have these important conversations that I'm highly passionate about, and have a good time doing it without adding more and more work or making it feel like too much work. The personal website is up and live, and we're uploading blog posts and book summaries, and oftentimes the blog posts and book summaries are even more thorough than the video because it includes information we couldn't fit in the video because videos get too long sometimes. I also posted the Peter Attia Outlive book summary up there in written format, but you can also watch the video. I'm very proud of this one because it's so extensive. It took me so long. It is the one single video on any of my channels that I've spent the most time on. There's so much content there, but I'm proud of it. So when I forget things, I'm just going to go to my own book summary and go through it to refresh. I've sent it to family members to help them. Like, I tell them, hey, please read the book. And then you can also use this as a summary. But if you don't want to read it, you can also use it as a summary with the action items. But the reason I think reading a book is better than doing summaries is that the stories that help ideas stick in books, because if you want to summarize a book, the actual main points, it's orders of magnitude shorter. But the reason we do the full book is that it includes stories and anecdotes that your memory can then latch onto, and it makes a greater impact for you longer term. And the stories that latch on for you are different than the ones that will latch on for other people, which is why books can sometimes feel repetitive. But again, that book summary, it includes everything you need to know, including the action items, and very proud of it. On to Jabal and Cars, having a ton of fun, even though I am losing money on every single video, because in terms of revenue, we pull in about $1,200 to $1,700 per month on average, but the cost of just our team, our social media assistant, producer, the editors, that alone is about $2,500 per month. And that's not even accounting for my transportation to and from. Sometimes I'm flying places, hotels, gas, all that stuff, right? And the channel is just so much fun though, because I'm normally doing car reviews there, but I also do these opinion piece videos. So sometimes I get really fired up to talk about some random topic, but I don't know how to put it into a KJMB video, but I want to get it out to the world. So I just put on my GoPro right here on my forehead. It's a POV channel, and I just talk while driving a car. And some of those videos have very much resonated. In fact, some of the topics we've covered, we've talked a lot about finances, especially for car enthusiasts. We've talked about, is it better or worse to be a young car enthusiast now versus years in the past? Because a lot of doom and gloom out there. Talk about general advice I wish I got in my 20s, a story about how a friend lost over $1 million and what I learned from that, and a lot more. You can find that playlist link below. We finally hit 10K subs. We're actually now at 13K subs at the time of this recording. And in the last year, man, I drove some truly insane, incredible cars. Some highlights from this year: a three-way 997 GT3 and GT3 RS video comparison. For those who aren't car nerds, the 997 is 2 generations ago 911, and the GT3 is the highest trim, right? So the GT3 RS, we drove both the 3.8 and the 4.0. The 3.8 on the used market right now is around $300,000, and the 4.0 is $600,000 to $1 million in value. It's insane. Cars that I will never own myself, but just be able to drive them and review them and experience them, share that with you all. That was pretty sick. That was pretty awesome. Also drove the Cayman GT4 RS. I drove it on street last year, drove it on track twice this year, and compared it against some other cars, including a 991.2 GT3 on track. Drove 3 different 991.2 GT3s on track. 2 of them PDK, 1 of them manual, different mods, one stock, the other 2 had mods. Truly wild stuff. I also drove a McLaren 750S. Now, I am a massive nerd with this stuff, so I actually keep a spreadsheet on. I rate all the cars I drive. It's called the Jabal and Cars Driving Index. You can find that linked on any of my Jabal and Cars videos. And the McLaren 750S drives insanely well, the highest on the list. And also drove, for the first time this year, 718 Spider RS, which ranked number 2 on that list. So both of those videos are live. You can watch them. And if you care, you can also see the Jabal and Cars Driving Index entries. Also traded in my Toyota GR86 and bought my Lotus Emira and a Mazda Miata both this year. And having 2 sports cars is awesome. I'm super grateful for that. First time I've had 2 sports cars at the same time. And I've been doing more sim racing. So I installed triple monitors. I had a VR headset before. I just didn't like it that much. So triple monitors, definitely my preference. And because of that, it's lowered the friction, made it more enjoyable. And now I'm doing it much more frequently. And I'm actually going to start doing some streaming at Jabal and Sim Racing. That's going to be lower budget, unfiltered, just streaming, no fancy edits and such. And if you want to join me, have a conversation, and see some iRacing and some Assetto Corsa Evo when it drops, then join us there. And the final thing on the professional side is with regards to the other companies that I'm advising and investing in. Now, I've been doing this since actually 2023, but really took it to the next level this year, expanding my investing and advising roles in a second company this year. Very excited for that. It's a new hair loss company that is doing things completely differently in a way that I think people are going to realize, like, why wasn't this done sooner? This is the way it should have always been. And that's going to be launching early in 2025. Very excited because that's going to shake things up. Now, speaking of 2025, before looking forward, I first want to look back and see what did I hit and what did I miss. So back in 2023, I was planning on cycling 5,000 miles on the bike. So far this year, only 3,200 at the time of this filming, but I could probably get to about 3,500 by the end of the year. And I'm finally back to upper body strength training. That was a goal for me last year because I had this shoulder injury around Thanksgiving of last year. Again, huge kudos to Trevor Hash. He saved my sanity. I was getting super frustrated and just feeling a bit dejected about it. So I'm enjoying lifting more so now because for like the first half of this year, I was just doing lower body strength training, and that's just not nearly as fun. I was doing either upper body rehab, which is never fun, or lower body strength training. And everyone likes to skip leg day, right? So I was just doing legs, and now I'm doing both upper and lower as it should be. One thing I mentioned last year, if you saw that video, I had a lot of fun hosting Thanksgiving for the first time at my place, and I was looking forward to improving my house to make it even better for hosting by finally landscaping my backyard. It's still just a pile of dirt, and my backyard is still dirt. So I guess priority shifted and I focused more on cars. So buying 2 new cars ate into that budget for working on my backyard and landscaping. But I think that did maximize my happiness this year, so I'm okay with that. As for 2025 plans, on a personal note, I'm going to Italy for 2 weeks. Very excited for the food, for the cars. Also going to see another Formula 1 Grand Prix next year, maybe even 2, haven't decided. I want to increase my VO2 max by at least 3 milliliters per kg per minute. I want to cycle 5,000 miles. Again, that's my goal. I think I can hit it this year as long as I don't get multiple illnesses like I did this year. I want to add 5 pounds of lean muscle by the end of the year. So I'm getting a DEXA scan on December 31st this year. I'm going to do another one to measure my progress at 6 months, halfway through the year, and then again at 12 months to see if I'm on track and if I actually hit that target. I also want to keep working with levels on keeping my average blood sugar lower and lower, and also my standard deviation tighter and tighter, and reduce the number of spikes I'm having per day. Keep dialing in my diet, figuring out what works for me, what doesn't. My breakfast as an example, also working on increasing my fiber intake each day. So as an example, what I've already done so far is I've substituted my breakfast many days per week with a chia seed pudding, which has protein powder in it. So I'm getting the protein, but also chia seed has a ton of fiber. So more to come about that and my journey with functional medicine and functional nutrition. On a professional note, with Med School Insiders, we're launching some new services. The first category is focused on BSMD advising. If you're a high school student wanting to go to a BSMD program, that's going to be launching soon. We also have some other super exciting long-term pre-med coaching plans, which I think will make a massive impact for a lot of students. More on that later. We're revamping our course community. So a lot of our courses right now, when you buy them, you're working either on Discord or on Facebook groups to connect with others and to have those discussions and to speak with our mentors and our doctors. But I have actually purchased some of my own courses in the last year or two, and they use a separate platform. And I've been very impressed by that as a customer of those courses. And I'm like, dude, I want to put my courses on the same platform. So we're going to be working on that. Should be happening by end of February. We're also going back and improving the content of some of our older courses, including the pre-med roadmap. So if you're on the fence, get it now, because once we revamp these courses, the prices are going to be going up to reflect the added value there. But if you lock it in now, you're going to get the full value of that course and be upgraded for free. There are some other big changes that you will definitely notice. Can't disclose too much on that yet, but trust me, you'll notice it once it happens. Stay tuned and subscribe to the Med School Insiders newsletter if you're a pre-med or medical student. That's medschoolinsiders.com/newsletter. And overall in the business, we're putting a lot of effort into behind the scenes stuff. We've been doing a lot of that throughout this year, but also a lot more next year. And you're going to notice the fruits of that labor in Q2 or Q3 of 2025. On the Kevin Jabal MD front, want to get more blog posts out. The goal is to have 1 per week on average next year, and that's going to coordinate with the video we're posting on YouTube. And we also want to work on the backlog of videos because there have been hundreds of videos that we don't have blog posts for. Not every single video needs a blog post, but most of them do. I'm going to launch my personal newsletter. You can sign up for it right now. I haven't sent out any issues yet, but that will be coming out in 2025. And if you follow this channel, then I think you're going to find a lot of value in that newsletter. And overall, the theme with KGMV is focusing on fun and enjoyment. So the new direction we've taken this year that we're going to continue on is doing reaction videos on things that I want to talk about, and also doing more collaborations. I already have plans for a day in the life episode early next year for filming. So the actual release date will be a month or two after that, which I'm very excited for. I know you guys love the Day in the Life series as well. On to Jabal and cars. I am still focused on becoming a better driver. That has constantly been a focus, and continuing to do that not only on the racetrack, but also in sim racing. So taking sim racing a little bit more seriously, starting to do the streaming, having some accountability there to help keep me more consistent, and want to also increase the number of track days I go to. I haven't done as many track days with my own cars this year since trading in the GR86. I need to get the Miata prepped for track days, get a roll bar, stuff like that. I do drive a lot of other people's cars on tracks, and I've done several of those track days this year. But obviously, I never push anyone else's cars to 10/10ths. I don't want anything to happen to their car. Don't want to risk it. Even though I have insurance, if something were to happen, we'd be covered, but that's still just a headache, right? So I only push cars hard enough to be able to review them and talk about how they drive, but I'm never going for like lap times or just shaving off tenths. Also focusing on, again, with this channel, following the fun and the passion more so than anything else. Even though I do hope that we become profitable, I think we can still focus on the fun, and that will eventually come. Again, $1.2 to $1.6, $1.7 thousand per month, but we need to hit $2,500 to break even. Actually, we've given raises to some people recently, so I think maybe even closer to $3,000 per month to break even, and that's before you account for the travel, the gas, etc., my time and effort. So on top of becoming a better driver, I want to become a better car reviewer. So I keep a document about what I think I'm doing well on the channel. I think I have some unique strengths when it comes to car reviews, but also what I could be doing better, what I think other people are doing that I want to emulate or work toward. And of course, again, that sim racing streaming channel is going to be a lot of fun. You can follow me with a link down below. It's at Jabal and Sim Racing. And on the advising investing front, we're launching the product for Dermos early next year. Again, it's going to shake up the industry. Very, very excited for that. And also excited for what Soma Lab is doing. More updates on that later next year. Now, going back to gratitude to round this video out, looking at 2024 and looking forward to 2025, I am so grateful that you guys are following, that you guys have given me your support, because it provides me the ability to feel like the work that I'm doing matters, that I'm making an impact and benefiting others, to have that purpose, because none of us want to feel like what we're doing doesn't matter. That's such a huge part of getting satisfaction from your life, from your work, and it allows me to carve this new path for myself. I know that if I was still in plastic surgery, if I would have my practice right now, right? Because I would have finished my training last June. So it would have been 1.5 years since I finished residency. And maybe I would have done a fellowship. I don't know. Probably hand. Yeah. But anyways, I would not have been able to focus on my health in the way that I was able to this year. I would not have been able to travel, right? I would not be getting tons of messages with, the positivity about how people have turned their life around as students and getting better grades, or they got into med school, they got into their dream school, they got into their goal residency after not matching. Like, all these things add meaning, and I'm grateful for your support. I hope you enjoy the holidays. I hope you have a fantastic 2025. Much love, my friends. Onwards and upwards, and I'll see you in the new year.